up, witches? I'm Taylor.
And I'm Amber.
And this is Waking Up the Witch.
We're your neighborhood witches, and each week we get together and talk about all things witchy.
We're two curious ladies trying to understand the human experience, but while we do that, we think it's important to honor the people that lived here before us and honor the cultures and traditions that we're being inspired by.
This podcast is about waking up the witch, which means we are learning and growing every day. That being said, we're always open to feedback on how we can do better.
Now, let's go, ghouls. Live from New York. It's Saturday night. What's up, Queen?
Hey, friend.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm feeling really nice and just calm after our conversation with our guest. I just feel really in my soul right now, which feels nice.
It was
and
so
yummy.
good.
Yeah.
I feel jacked up. I'm energized. I'm stoked. This is what I want to be doing. This is amazing. She was so good. How was your week?
My week was so busy, but really good and just totally in alignment with the future I'm creating. I was able to do a Reiki session for our lovely friend at our favorite winery, and that was really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I think for both of us, it was just really special to help her on such a profound, deep level and to get to know her a little more deeply too and just share that energy together. She brought me this incredible bread from this local bakery in Ashland called Mix.
Mm-hmm.
Holy fuck, it was so delicious. Really, really good bread. Then it was election day and I fucking voted and we got the governor that we wanted. So that felt good.
We still have rights.
Yes. Most important. That was the first thing. I was like, cool, my body's safe. Thank fucking goddess.
Yep.
And then I also had my body code session this week, which we'll talk a lot more about, but it's basically about releasing trapped emotions in our bodies that could be creating imbalances physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. It's kind of my little self-care therapy that I do once a month with this amazing practitioner out of Colorado. That just felt so fucking good. I was feeling really nice and jazzed. We recorded twice this week because of our just getting used to our new setup and our new space.
That was our first recording here.
And then my favorite day was probably Saturday.
It was fun as fuck.
It was such a good day. You and I came here and I got to do a Reiki session for you. And I just, as we were getting started, was hit with such intense emotions. And I was like, I'm going to fucking cry right now. I couldn't even really explain where it was coming from. And you just knew right away. And you're like, I'm so proud of you. You're here, you're doing this where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing in this space. You've worked so hard to get here and now you're doing it. And I was like, yes, those are the words that I couldn't figure out what I was feeling, but I was just like, I am right here in this space on Main Street, about to do Reiki for someone who I love a lot. And it was just a beautiful, chill session. Felt fucking great to do that.
Blasted wide open.
Yeah, we did a lot of work for you that day.
My first session with you.
It was really good. And then
all the chakras are just popping.
Then I taught you how to channel. I mean, you already know how to channel. You're already fucking doing it all the time. But I taught you how to be intentional about it and connect with just the magic of other energies. And that was really special to be able to share those gifts with you and show you how to do it. And I don't know, this week was fucking incredible. Busy, but wonderful. How was yours?
Amazing. Probably same. We recorded twice.
We spent so much time together this week. That was nice.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, so you'll hear in the last episode, I've had a lot of cancellations, almost $2,000 worth of cancellations last week. But my hands were super fucked up from my eczema. It it was how it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's frustrating, it's fine and whatever. So we did get to spend a lot of time together. I think I saw you like almost every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I took this opportunity to I stayed at work one of the days and I changed all my booking stuff. I worked on my website. I transferred all my contacts over. I got a new work phone number. I did so much stuff that I needed to do. It was all good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to get all of that admin-y shit done when you are seeing people all the time. So.
Yeah, and like a lot of these things I probably have needed to do for a while, but I wasn't set on them, but I was just fed up in the moment. And I'm like, fuck it, we're changing everything. I don't care.
You are like in your Scorpio season so hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just like burnt shit down and rebuilding it, and it's just gonna get better.
Yeah, I'm like, what's next? Sag?
Mm-hmm. Which is like adventurous and magical and just like very on the fly. Like, what's it called? Spontaneous. Very spontaneous, very spiritual, very like, let's go play in the woods last minute.
Understanding all of the signs and like all of the what their characteristics are helps me understand what's going on with myself a little bit more and see patterns
totally
back through.
It's also going to be it's a fiery sign, Sagittarius, so it's going to be like really
get shit done.
Yeah, it's that Wands energy, like Danielle had said, like the go take action, go get shit done, make shit happen, which makes sense around the holidays. It's like fucking speed, light years through that time.
Yeah, fuck it, I'm ready.
Yeah, so we did a bunch of business
I love Scorpios, and I love Scorpio season. It's not an easy time, but it's necessary. So then I was like, we need to book a Reiki session. I don't know when we're going to be able to do this. And she was like, let's do it Saturday. And we did it, and it was so much different than my first session, which was a couple months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't as intense or like chaotic feeling. Like it was much more grounded. I
was still feeling super heavy and chaotic a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. That's like when I don't know, started having like all this anxiety, and then like the thing with women's rights was happening, and I had convinced myself the world was ending. Yeah. And there was no point in like anything, and that may have changed from just doing work with you and going on this bigger journey myself. I also got medicated, so that could be like, I think that they go hand in hand. Totally. I think all this spiritual work, I've been against medication always. I'm not anymore.
It can really help. Like if you are someone who needs to be medicated, it could be absolutely life-changing for you.
Yeah, it's given me, everything's not so fucking life or death anymore. It's not so like end of the world feeling when something happens. It's just like easier to get through. And whatever I'm on, like I don't feel numbed in any way. I almost feel heightened because I'm not distracted by anxiety. Which
fucking amazing.
Yeah, if you need to dig yourself out of a hole and you might need medication, we are pro.
Yes.
We're
pro take care of yourself.
Yeah. I'm good with Eastern medicine, Western spirituality. We need balance.
Yeah. I think I'm pro like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and finding out what works for you as an individual, which can be such a journey and not always easy, but taking care of yourself is really what it's about. Well,
now that I'm medicated, I'm able to pull myself out of bed to do the self-care things that keep me balanced, when before I wasn't. Like I have missed weeks of work before, because not weeks at a time, but like a week here and there, because I just can't. Yeah. I can't make myself do it. I'm like, I could look at my books and be like, this is a $4,000 week, and be like, I don't care. I need to just cocoon. And I haven't had that in months. And so,
what a good feeling. Hell yeah, meds.
Hell yeah. And just growth and everything in general. But yeah, so my Reiki was fucking great. I feel a lot more in tuned. I feel more open, just in general. Listening to myself on the podcast, just from where we started and to now, like this is week 7.
Yeah,
so much change.
Already, so much healing. between us.
Can
and
you
so
imagine
much growth.
a year from now?
I know. I have these like butterflies in my body. Like I feel turned on. To be honest, is like that turn on feeling, like excitement, and like I feel totally different. I feel so much more empowered,
Like stepped into your
and so
power.
much more confident. And like,
Same.
of course, I still have these moments where I'm like, who the fuck is that? Like, but when I listen to myself, I don't ever think that. And
I also don't know that I'm afraid of anything now.
I definitely feel much more brave, and
the amount of anxiety and terror that I had to actually put myself out there, and then to realize, oh, nothing happened. Oh, like nothing.
We're more alive than we were 8 weeks ago.
I mean, I didn't die. I'm still here and thriving.
That's the biggest thing, is like fear. Like, we don't do the thing because of fear. And
ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah. And you have to do the thing.
Oh, I shit my pants in front of people? Okay, that might be a bad one.
But you'll recover and you'll still live and you'll be fine.
You'll have a funny story.
Yeah, you will have a funny story. Absolutely. I just feel blessed to be doing this in another week. And like, it really makes me feel alive, connecting with somebody else.
Hold on. I'm going to tell you a little story.
Yeah. Story time.
We went to the male strip show on Saturday.
It was practically like a Chippendales.
It was fucking hilarious.
It was called Girls Night Out.
Yep. It was so funny. I don't know that it's supposed to be funny, but I thought it was hilarious.
The people watching,
top notch.
I mean, we didn't totally know what we were getting into. Like, we kind of had an idea a little bit. Like, we knew we were going to go do some... There was going to be some men.
If your mom was there, no, she probably had her face humped by a guy's underwear.
Your mother-in-law's and best friend's mail lady was there.
Oh, that is not my mother-in-law's mail lady. My mother-in-law said, I hate that lady. I didn't know that was your mail lady.
Oh.
And I was like, it was her mail what did the mail lady do to you?
And she was like, getting down with these men.
It was insane. We just watched, and
my jaw was like on the floor half the time.
Same. So,
but it's also an art.
They're coming back.
Good for those guys, and like being like, I just think it's so wonderful that they get to go and just like be their sexy selves and make these women.
Men are not that sexy.
No, I agree. But
women
I feel
are just so beautiful, and men are just so manly.
But all these women were just like, I'm out for a good time. Like, they fucking were having the time of their life. They were all getting to be like their raunchy, sexy selves, and just like own it with their friends. And I was like, just totally enveloped in the people watching and amazing. Watching the friends be like all horny with each other. It just brought me joy, honestly.
Oh my God.
And I was like, thank God these guys exist, because these women want this experience. And
there was like this 72-year-old lady, and I was like, oh my God, I'll buy you a dance, like whatever. And I was scrounging up the money, and it was like $20 or something. And I had 15, and I looked at somebody else. I was like, hey, you want to throw $5 down to get this lady a dance? And the old lady looks at me and goes, what, are you broke? I love your energy, ma'am. I'm about to buy you a fucking dance. I'm like, that's who I want to be when I'm older. She was just this like all put together, like
she's
nice looking old lady.
She got real drunk at the end of the night. She was like coming up to me and talking to me. I don't even know what she was saying, but she was saying some shit, and I was like, this woman is just friends with everyone, and she just got fucking humped on stage in front of everybody. Yep.
And then Amber went home, and we went into a second bar after, and the guy was like, it's $5 to get in, and we said no. And he was like, what? And we're like, we're not doing that. And we just walked in. And he was like, okay, and just let us in.
Amazing.
I think it's because everybody there was like in their early 20s, and they just were like, it's fine, whatever. And
you totally got Allison into the male review, no problem.
Yeah. They'll be back in February at the Sound Lounge, and we're going. Sound Lounge is a much better venue. And then yesterday, did that thing where I tried to microdose mushrooms. I have no scale for any of this when I'm doing it. And Curtis and I ate a little bit of this chocolate and went to Tap and Vine. And we're sitting there, and I was like, at one point, I was like, I almost started crying. I was like, I'm just really grateful to have Amber in my life. I feel like my whole entire life has completely changed since I met you. And then I started talking about this energy work, and Kurt looked at me, and he was like, thought that I was like putting a spell on him because he had forgotten that he ate the mushrooms, and all of a sudden he's like, fuck, I forgot I ate those mushrooms. I thought you were doing some energy shit to me. And then I started feeling really high, and then we just giggled for like a while. And it was really fun. And then we went home and watched Prey, which is the new
like the Predator.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that was
with
really
all
good.
the Native American cast. So good.
Yeah, I heard that was really good. I also there's like a dog in there that's like the best dog actor ever, right?
So cute.
I haven't seen it. I just heard another podcast talk about
Whatever.
it.
The whole thing is amazing. And here I am today. I might have you cut this part if it doesn't go as planned. But I went and looked at a salon space. And it was perfect. It was perfect. It's everything that I've been looking for 2 years.
Yeah,
I really hope that it works out. So putting it out there feeling cute might delete later.
Adore.
Yeah. And then, our guest, we just talk Ayurveda, and we broke that down in a really fucking awesome way.
Yeah.
I loved that. Her story was just, I mean, obviously it's different from mine, but it's the exact same.
I think that's what I love so much about
the storytelling,
how we connect with people and get to hear their story. One, it just it feels good to be able to share. I think as humans, we want to share and we want to be heard. We want to be seen. I love that we get to give people the space to share their stories, and then ourselves and everyone who does eventually listen gets to see a little piece of themselves and others. I feel like we're really bringing together this deeper human connection. That's what it feels like to me. This was my first time meeting Adrienne, and she is such a beautiful soul, and her story is special. Totally relatable, and she's such a good storyteller, and I feel really grateful that we get to have this platform to be able to do that storytelling, and then also learn a lot about the magical amazingness of the world that we get to exist in as humans.
I love it. Well, and it's I think I've said this before, but everybody thinks that to be spiritual, you have to just be jolted out of your sleep one night and then blasted off into the astral realm, and then you're just fucking woke, and that's not it.
That's not how it works.
It's trauma and healing and self-care and listening to yourself and your body and others, and just it's work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And maybe there are a couple of people, Eckhart Tolle, whatever, you get just sucked out of your body while you're at a park, and that's just not anyone else's
But I bet if
story.
we got to hear his waking up story, there's a lot more to it.
That's not what he said in his book.
Well,
his first thing is I'd never cared about anything, and I was just sitting at the park, and then I had this spiritual crazy awakening.
All right. Well, it probably happens for some people.
But it's not the norm. And so the storytelling part is just really, really special.
Yeah, I love it so much. And she really helped us to understand Ayurveda and herbalism and nutrition on such a unique level. I'm so excited. I don't want to spoil it. It's just...
And we'll talk to other people too more about nutrition, because I feel that's
and herbs. This topic can go so deep. Same with astrology. That's what's so beautiful is we just get to connect with each individual and see how they are unique and special and magical in their own way. We all are magical, special people, and we all have something very important to offer others. So I want you to think about that for yourself. You may be a dog walker and may not think that you are you have anything special to offer, but I guarantee there's something special and different about you, why people want to hire you or whatever.
I don't want to walk any dogs. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all are so unique. Like, even if we can relate to others or we have the same profession, like for you, you're an incredible hairstylist, but you literally are fucking special and unique and have something different to offer people that other people don't.
Well,
and what you have to say is different, and how your energy is and how people are going to connect to you is different. And so even if you think like I'm doing the same fucking thing that Joe Schmo is doing, no, even if you have similarities, you yourself are a unique human being who has something magical to offer the world. So fucking do it.
Yeah.
Make shit happen, because we need you. You're important.
Also, I channeled.
Yeah.
I did it.
You fucking did it.
I connected and I channeled, and it feels like you're making it up.
Yep.
But then you say something that nobody else knows to someone, and then it's validation that you're not making it up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Side note.
You did so good.
Okay.
That was so special to share that with you. Anyways, we had such a good time talking to Adrienne, and
obsessed.
We're so excited. Yeah.
She texted me after and said, thanks, I needed the confidence.
Yes. I'm totally obsessed with her. Can't wait to chat with her more and get to know her better and just soak up the magic that she has to offer. So we hope that you all love and enjoy this episode as well.
It was awesome.
Enjoy. Welcome to this week's episode. As always, we're just going to start with calling in our guides and starting with some grounding breaths. So if you feel called to, close your eyes and just sit comfortably for a moment. And let's start by taking 3 deep breaths together to connect our energy. Breathing in and release. And one more breath in and release. And the third breath in and release. I'd like to call in our higher selves, our guides and ancestors, any angels that wish to be here with us today for this beautiful episode with our lovely guest. Thank you for bringing all of us together to share in this opportunity to heal a little deeper, learn a little bit more, and just share in our human experience together. Please allow for whatever is needed to come through today for the highest good and the highest light for all involved across all timelines. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey. Hey, girl.
What's up?
Who are you?
Oh, so many things, right? First off, my
Tell us
name
your name.
is
What you do?
Okay. My name is Adrienne, and I am somebody who I do a lot. There's a lot of things, a lot of ways I could describe myself, but the main things: I am an herbalist. I am a nutrition consultant, a studier of Ayurveda and all things elemental, as well as a holistic chef / currently the head chef of a restaurant in Ashland, which is its whole own other learning venture that I'm currently on.
Yay! That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the restaurant? We have a lot of local listeners.
Totally. It's called Hither, and it is a farm-to-table brunch restaurant. And I manage the back of house, and I'm head chef there. And it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of creative freedom there, and I do a lot of like pastry and stuff. And so I get to be really creative, which is really cool. And I'm learning about a lot about, what it takes to be able to run a restaurant. And it's really cool because that's something that's like been on my bucket list for a long time. And so I've really looked at this job as as a learning opportunity, you know? And yeah, I've been
awesome.
self-employed for so long. And so it's also been like a big shift for me. But yeah, I've been really enjoying it. And it's just another learning, another
yeah, that's
awakening.
a much different responsibility. It was like
right.
working for yourself for the last 10 years and now
yeah,
running a
totally.
restaurant. I didn't know you were doing that. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know it's been a while since we've chatted. Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking at it like an apprenticeship, you know?
Okay.
Because yeah, it has been a big shift, but it's cool.
Would you start us off by telling us about your waking up story, spirituality, and how that kind of came about, and then what brought you to where you are today?
Totally. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I have like so many stories.
We want to hear
and I also,
of them.
yay! And I've also like noticed, I listened to some other episodes and noticed like some similarities. Like I too was raised Catholic, and
wow,
you know, never really bought it, honestly. Like even from like a young age, I was never like, oh yeah, like God, you know, I don't know. And so I had like so I had like somewhat of an aversion to it, you know, for like a really long time until I like tapped into what that means to me and like found out even like, yeah, what to believe in as far as like a guide like that. But yeah, I think from a really young age, I've felt very in tune to a lot of things. And it wasn't until later in my life that those things were actually like validated for me, where I was like told like, yeah, this is what was happening, you know? And now I'm like, okay, it makes so much sense. Like why these things, like so many things that used to like scare me too, before I realized like what was actually going on.
Like what?
So this is also something that I've heard from other people that have been on here, is like the whole connection to the other realm. I grew up in a house that was haunted. And I found out later in my life that like, yes, I know that this guy, his name is Earl, also just to make it like even more creepy. But he died in the house before my parents bought the house. And when I was like super, super young, I was like so scared of this like feeling, right? And I had no idea what it was. And I had like some encounters in that house. One of the main ones, when I was like, I think like 12 years old, I moved into the basement. I wanted to be independent. I had like, my room was like across the street or across the road from my hallway, whatever, from my parents' house. Or my parents.
It feels like that when you're 12, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. The hallway from my parents, all growing up. And so moving downstairs was like a big thing for me. And I had my own bathroom and whatever. And I always remember it being like freezing cold down there. Like we had central heat. There's no reason for it to be that
not basement cold, like
but
creepy cold.
Oh, so yeah, totally. Because it was like finished and stuff too. But regardless, so I moved into that room, and I remember it was like, I want to say it was like the first night I stayed down there, or at least one of the first couple nights that I stayed down there. I remember like laying in my bed, and I had so many blankets on top of me, like one to feel safe, right? And then like two to warm because it was so dang cold. And I remember like sleeping with like these blankets super thick over me, and I get like, boom, like woken up, like jolted awake, right? And I like open my eyes super fast, and there's this like white, wispy, smoky hand that is like reaching over my blankets and grabs the top of my blankets. And I jump out of bed like so freaking fast. And I like flip on my light, and I remember jumping up onto my bed, and I like go like this, like waving my hand to see if it was like a spider web, like if like a spider had come down, something. Nothing is there, right? And I was just so creepy, like literally. And I have no idea what's going on, right? This is before any of this stuff has even been like shown to me, because I also didn't grow up in a family that like anything like that was ever like talked about. Like, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it too. So I think this was something that I like kept to myself for a really, really long time. And okay, so that happens. And I think that same year, my parents, I think I was actually 10 when that happened, because I think this also happened when I was 10. My parents told me not to watch The Sixth Sense. They were like, don't watch it. It's way too scary. And I, of course, being the little rebel that I am, learned my lesson. Yes. I watch it by myself in that freaking basement alone at like midnight. And I was so scared. Like, I was like, holy shit, this is what's happening. This is what I feel. Like, this is why my freaking bathroom is so cold. Like, and it scared me so much. And again, also something that I didn't ever feel comfortable telling anybody about. And I ended up like sleeping in my mom's bed for like a month. And I was like 10, so I was like a big kid. And my parents were like terrified that something like horrible had happened to me, because I was so scared, but I was also didn't feel comfortable telling them what I had done or what I was feeling. Mm-hmm. And eventually, after about a month, I told them that I watched the movie, and I was terrified, which I think was like a relief for them. But I think that was like one of the first times that I was like, like, is that what this is?
Wow.
So that was a big thing. And again, like, this is me like in my youth, still just like questioning, like still not validated, still not sure.
This is all in Washington?
Yeah, this is in Spokane. And to this day, my mom still lives in that house. And like, I had another encounter with that entity when I was up there a couple years ago, and I was in the basement. And I was watching Maya, my niece. She was like taking a nap upstairs. Mm-hmm. I was on FaceTime with my ex, and I'm sitting there in my old bedroom, sitting on the bed, and I feel the same thing and see the same thing, this really cold pressure, smoky, right over me. And it's like, oh my God, I'm giving myself chills. And this like, so like this same like cold, smoky, wispy, cold pressure. And I'm on FaceTime with him, and I was like, did you see that? Like, did you see what just happened? And I don't think he did. No. But like fully, believes me. And I think for me too, I'm like, dang, Earl, I'm like, you're trapped, dude. Like, how long have you been there? And I've thought about taking it upon myself to try and like release him, and I just never have. I mean, I don't live there, but I feel for him now that I like understand the spiritual realm a little bit more. I feel for the dude. He's stuck, you know?
Wow.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to be in the house to do that work.
Yeah.
You can do it from where you're at.
Yeah, I
now.
guess that's true.
If you felt called to.
The question is
interesting. How did he die? Do you know?
I don't remember.
We looked up
we looked up the obituary, because I like a couple years ago, I talked to my mom about it, and I'm like, what, like, what the heck? And also my niece, who is also a Pisces, has been really afraid of going in the basement. She's had these like weird feelings herself. And I think she's also just like innately in tune to those kind of realms. We looked up the obituary. He died in the house. I think of like an old age or some sort of natural cause. It wasn't like tragic necessarily, but so there's that. That's part of it for sure.
Do you still see spirits, or was that the only person in time?
I had another really intense, pretty scary also, encounter with another ex-boyfriend of mine at this old, like bed and breakfast in Humboldt County. And this was something that was like so intense when I experienced it. And I had told the story so many times that literally a couple years ago, I had to call him, and I was like, tell me what happened in that bed and breakfast. Like, just tell me, like, from your perspective.
Validate.
Because I was literally like, am I fucking making this up? Like, because it is like so intense, and it was very real, and it fully happened. And it's funny because when he tells me the story, he's the hero in it, of course, even though I was the one who was like, we can't stay here. Like, this is whatever. And of course he's the one in the story, which is just very funny to me.
What happened there?
So him and I, we were driving.
We love them.
So we were driving through Humble and we stopped on the beach and we were like watching the sunset and we ended up falling asleep in the car. And we got woken up by the cops at like midnight or something. And they're like, y'all can't stay here. You got to go. And we had been like driving up the coast. So like we weren't close to like any like main city or anything like that. And so we're like, cool, like we got to find some place to stay. So we're like on this back road and literally like out of a movie, swear to God, there's this bed and breakfast, old Victorian house up on this hill.
And start of a horror film.
Yeah, straight up, like no wonder why I was terrified because again, this is something that's really innate for me, but it's taken me a long time to understand it and embrace it also.
Trust it.
Anyway,
yeah.
Trust it. Yeah. And that's taken some years of growth and practice and experience and whatever. So we find this spot, right? I'm instantly already creeped out. Like, I'm not going to lie. We walk in there and it's like old black and white vintage pictures all up and down the walls. Like, it's like there's old furniture in there. She shows us this downstairs room and it's like right to the right when you walk in. Also, this lady is like short haired, big dragon tattoo, like kind of like motorbike chick, like super badass. And it's really interesting to see her in this like super like antique-y, like old dead people freaking like covered with it just like didn't quite make sense. And so she shows us this room off to the right. I mean, like metal, wrought iron, creepy bed, old quilt, like rocking chair in the corner, like
probably had a smell to it.
It had a smell. It was like dusty. It was just super spooky, right? And so I look at that room and I'm just like, the fuck no, dude. Like, no. Instantly I have this hit that like, I don't want to stay in there. And she says she has another room upstairs. We didn't look at it, but it was like $50 more a night. And so he was just like, we'll take it. He's also just like a yes man, always. Like, I was just like, right? So we go outside. And we're like, okay, we'll get our stuff. And so we're sitting in the front seat of the car. I'm sitting in the driver's seat and I have the keys in my lap and we're smoking weed. Of course, let's just open the fucking portal, you know? So we're sitting there, we're smoking and we're just talking. And I was like telling him like, man, I'm a little creeped out, you know, like it's kind of freaky in there. And then as we're talking, the like headlight or whatever, the overhead lights, right? They flicker, right? Left, right, left, right, left. Mm-hmm. And I like look down and the keys are in my lap and the radio is like totally like a fucking power surge. And I look at him and I'm like, fuck no, dude, no, absolutely not. Like I grab his leg and I'm like, are you serious? Like, is this real? And he's like, we have to stay. I was like, I'm not staying here. Like, I'm scared. And he was like, we have to stay. We already told her yes. Like, no. Like, of course. And fully in his like style too. And I'm just like, okay, but I'm not staying in that downstairs room. I'm like, we have to stay in the other room. Like, there's no way. And so, you know, he's like, fine. Okay. We go in there. We're like, okay, we want the other room. So we go upstairs. Which maybe have pissed people off. I'm not even really sure, but I like turn all the pictures down, you know, like the pictures that are on the dressers, and I put them down. And there's like a little wood stove in there, and I'm like, we got to get the fire going. We got to like, you know, so we build a fire in the wood stove. I turn the pictures down. I don't know if this is any relativity at all, but there's like a really giant cat that jumps up and like scares me in the window, just shows up. And it was just, and I remember like going to bed that night with like blankets over my head, just like, no, like, let's just get this over with, right? Make it through the night. No other encounters. And then the next morning it's a bed and breakfast. So of course we're also the only ones staying there, by the way. And so we're sitting down. Yeah. We're sitting down to breakfast with this lady. Delicious. Also this bread pudding, like in a wine glass. Who does that? I don't know. Really good.
You didn't take that into Heather with
you? Right? I know, that is kind of Heather style. But yeah, so I'm just like, I have to tell you what happened last night, you know? And I tell her what happened. And she was like, you guys. And she like gets chills, you know? And she was like, I have to tell you. And she was like, my husband died in this house a couple months ago. This is his family's home. all of the pictures are like his ancestors. And this bed and breakfast, this home has been passed down through all these generations. And she is like taking care of it now after he passed. And she was like, you guys must have some kind of crazy energy. There's only been one other person who's told me that they've had an encounter in here. And she was like, it was in that downstairs room. And I was just looked at him and I was like, I knew it. Like, I knew it, right? So yeah, so when he tells me the story, he's like, oh yeah, and I was like, that downstairs room was so haunted and like we couldn't go in there. I'm like, no. Yeah. But I mean, the fact it happened. And yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that was really intense. I haven't had anything like that. I've had like, you know, like feelings of being spooked or like I can tell that there's some presence around, but that was like the biggest like show in a way of a spirit showing themselves.
Yeah.
That was real.
I mean, that light surge, like, just sounds
intense.
We were like, am I too high or is this actually happening?
Like, this is not a
that's why
vehicle.
No. I like look at the keys. I look at him. I look at the keys. I'm like, fuck, man. Like that. Like, and like, those are the things. It's like that stuff, like, people don't believe that shit actually happens. And I don't know if I would if I hadn't experienced it myself.
It's weird because right before you were telling that story, the light outside kept going on and off. It's like the street light was like on, off, and then I looked at her and was like, do you see
that? That happened the other day and I thought it was like some sort of haunting thing going on here, but I think that's just what happens when it's getting dark. And
it's just the timing of that was a little weird.
Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Adding to the creep factor.
Are you somebody that like now that you're older, are you channeling or like what are you doing with spirits and like how have you kind of come into your power about that?
I think it's something that I more like acknowledge. I don't necessarily like play with things like that. Like I've never done a Ouija board or like anything like that. I don't really think it's something to fuck around with. And I don't pull things. I don't intentionally pull things in, you know, like if I feel like there is something, I am like, hello, I feel you. Like, you know, like you can trust me, like whatever, like create like a safe dynamic. But I don't think it's something to mess around with. And I don't think a lot of those things want to be necessarily like pulled in, you know? My grandpa just passed away like a month and a half ago or something. And it's okay. And I totally like felt him, you know, in my house about like a week later. And it was the same thing where I was just like, you know, like, hi, like you're okay to go, you know, like told him that I loved him and just like, you know, like let that pass. And I think that's really important too. And I wonder about these spirits that are like stuck here is like who of their loved ones or like what is unfinished for them here? What do they still need to work through or who of their loved ones like has not been able to let them go? And I think that's like so important. And this is something
that's the big mystery, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And like, so the way that all of this was like very validated for me, if you'd like to hear that story.
Yes.
My Ayurvedic teacher, incredible woman. I'm sure, Taylor, I've talked to you about her. I'm like, she says, like the all-knowing she is literally like such a, like seriously, like I will like talk to her. I'll be like, well, she says, and it's like people know who I'm fucking talking about. 'Cause she's such a like strong, powerful person in my life. Somebody who is like so inspiring to me. I went to the Dhyana Center in Sebastopol. That's where I studied Ayurveda. And this woman is incredible. Like, I don't know if she would actually feel comfortable with somebody calling her a psychic because I don't know if she calls herself a psychic. But homegirl is psychic. Like, I have seen her tell so many stories. She does so much, and I've seen her like blow so many people's minds. One of the days that we were in class, so she does pulse reading where she puts her hands on both wrists and she uses the rhythm of your pulse to hone in on like the qualities of your dosha, right? So if you know anything about Ayurveda, it's ruled by Vata Pitta Kapha, and the way that she does it, there's all these qualities to Vata Pitta Kapha. So you're not just like Vata Pitta. You're me personally, I'm a Vata cold, Pitta hot. Walking contradiction. I'm like, of course I am. Like that makes so much sense. So there's seven qualities per dosha. Anyway, so while she's doing that, she has to like get like super deep, and she is reading all of our pulses. Literally, there's like 30 women in my class, and one after the other, I'm watching her like pull all of these things out of these people's like past and their stories that she knows nothing about. So
whoa. She's
like sitting there on somebody's wrist. She also like coughs when she has like a vision sometimes, and you can like see her. And when she gets on my pulse, I have this recorded somewhere and it's so trippy. But she gets on my pulse and the first thing she says is, "Did you grow up in a cold house?" And I was just like, "Lady, yes." It was freezing. I'm like, why? Like, what does it mean? Right. So that's the first thing she asked me. And then she asked if I have any touches with the other realm. And I was like, yeah, like I've always felt like that, you know? And she also asked me about my birth story then too. And we kind of came to the conclusion, like through my birth story, why potentially I have all these like sensitivities and clairvoyance. So when I was born, I had the cord wrapped around my neck 3 times, and I was like cut off from oxygen. Literally my head was like dark purplish black. Like the pictures of me coming out of my mom, I have like a fully purple head. And I, my heart rate went really down. I was first off born very cold, with no circulation, and my heart rate went down, almost stopped breathing. And so like they had to, bring me back to life, or like revive me really. And so she says like with that, it's given me, this cold quality. I still struggle with like poor circulation. And she says I was like touching both realms. So like not only also am I like a Pisces, but I've been touching both sides. So when I like coming into this realm from the other realm, I was touching both sides. And so I just have this sensitivity. I'm like, do you want me to tell if you have a ghost in your house? Because I will. But
wow.
So that, and so like, like as we're sitting there talking, she's asking me a lot of questions about stuff like that. And she was just like, yeah, like you have this like innate, like, I don't know, capacity to feel that and to see it. And that was incredibly validating for me, because I have like always been like, am I psychic? Like, am I this? Like, am I that? Like, what is it? And yeah, so that was
how
really
long
cool.
ago was that?
That was like probably 5 years ago.
Wow. I've never heard that story.
That's incredible. And so wild.
It was incredible. Yeah.
I kind of forgot that you did the Ayurveda thing. I definitely want to talk about that. Do you want to share like how all that and your childhood brought you into, because you do so many like beautiful healing services, and like you are a very spiritual person. Do you want to kind of get into how that brought you to where you are, and like how it's got you to dabble into all the things that you're interested in?
Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, all that stuff, right, through my youth was like happening, which was a catalyst for a lot of these things. But I had a pretty like gnarly childhood. And I think that is also potentially why, with this whole like Catholicism thing and God and whatever, which is I think a big part that like made me not really believe this. I'm like, I don't buy it, like if this is true, why is this like this? And when I was like, I think 13, I kind of started to create and find my own spirituality, and I didn't necessarily know what I was doing until I was like older. Like 17 was when I was like, when I found Buddhism, and, you know, and I like found all these things, and I like took some like solace and those kind of stuff. And I remember like reading about like Krishna consciousness, and I was like, yes, like I'm a Buddhist, like I believe in Krishna, like whatever, like I think that those are huge, like maybe not Krishna consciousness, that's a little intense, but like I think Buddhism specifically is a huge like gateway spirituality like path, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, when I was like 13, I think actually, you know, I think I was 14. I ate mushrooms for the first time. Probably too many mushrooms than any child should ever eat. And I don't know why. They told us to eat an eighth of mushrooms when we were in high school. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
And that was, it was the same.
And that was like, what? Yeah. Like, I would not eat an eighth of mushrooms right now. Like, no fucking
I would
way.
never do that.
Yeah. No. Oh, God, no. So
that was
way
like
too
the standard
much.
dose of like, you're talking to your friends. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm just like, why? Like, it's so dangerous, honestly. Pretty much. Actually, I met Moss, and I remember like being in the woods and being like, holy shit, like Moss, like it's you know, and like trees. Like, did you guys know there's trees out here? And did you know what they do? They're just like in the wind. And like, I think, so I was like, I mean, I was pretty into psychedelics after that. And I think that was like my first like awakening where I was like in touch with the earth or nature or some aspect of spirit at all. And I dove pretty heavy into that. And like hugely, I was like, I think it started off more as like a distraction, but I was like learning, you know, and I didn't have anybody that was like, again, like guiding me on any type of spirituality, any type of like, you know, like, I don't know, free thinking or anything like that. And so I spent a lot of my like high school years partying, doing psychedelics, running around with gangsters, like just experiencing a lot. And yeah, and I think like, but through all of that, I found, you know, like I found myself and my authenticity, and there was a lot of like, I don't know, there was a lot of growth going on. And as soon as I, you know, like when I was 17, I dropped out of high school and I like went off on my own. And I think once I separated even more also from like my family and from all of these things that were like really intense for me, and like continued on my own path, I started to realize, you know, like, I don't know, like what was important to me, what spirituality meant to me. And I learned a lot at a really young age. And I think that was like, those years were my first big awakening. And
nothing like some mushrooms and other psychedelics just to catapult you into yourself.
Yeah, my story is the exact same. Did that same, quit going to high school, like 17, had to go back later and get like my GED and stuff. But that's when I was like hanging out with other people that thought differently than just Joe Schmo or whatever.
How you were raised.
Yeah. It's crazy how we all kind of have this, like, not the same, obviously they're all really unique, but similar experiences. Yeah.
Right.
That brought us to where we are.
Yeah. And so, I think that was like the first big thing. And then once I moved out of Spokane, like I just realized too, that I needed to get the fuck out of there. And I moved to Portland and I moved with a bunch of friends. And then I met this guy and moved in with him and started like going to festivals and stuff and seeing this more like super like spiritual culture. And it's like when I look at it now, there's a lot of like performative spirituality, right? And like there's a lot of like disassociation and like drug addiction and like so many things that like go along with that world that are dark for sure. But it was also like my first time seeing people practicing these kinds of things, or like being on the dance floor, being high as hell, probably too high. But I'm like sitting there, and the music and like the connection of the people. And like, those are like some of those first times that I was like feeling, like connection with others, feeling some sort of aspect of God, like feeling, like just seeing it for a first time, people living like that. Cause I did not see that again. Like I didn't grow up in a house that was like that. Those kids that I hung out with in high school, like they weren't practicing that kind of stuff. I got a lotus tattoo on my arm when I was like 18. And at 18, I was literally like, I'm not going to be a drug addict anymore. Like I was definitely like ahead of my game in a lot of ways. And yeah, that's young to like already have gone through everything and being at 18, being like, I can't do this anymore, you know? So yeah, so there's been so many like levels and aspects to my awakening that I feel like have continued to happen, and in these so many different aspects of my life. And I feel like it's still happening, right? But like all of these big chunks and chapters of my life have been like continued journeys and continued awakenings. It's quite the process.
Well, and there's no healing without trauma, right? Like you obviously, I think most healers and people that practice that kind of stuff have had to go through fucked up shit to be able to heal themselves first and then heal others.
100%.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of you and your cycles in your life, just always continuing, just from what I know of you, like healing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you get into herbalism first? Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, yeah. So to like bring it all back, right, to like how I got to these places, like from a young age, I was like, I have to stop trashing my body, right? Which didn't stop for a while, but I went through like a lot of like abuse on my own body, like with the drugs that I did. I also experienced like a really gnarly eating disorder for a long time, which started when I was younger. And I think like in high school. And I think again, just this like aspect of like disassociating, like anything to detach me from like the reality of my home life hugely. And like I had a really hard time in high school because I think I just didn't have a lot of support, and I didn't have a lot of ways to like express myself, and I felt just like stuck. And so I coped, and that continued into my 20s. And then also around that time that I moved to Portland and I was like, I got to stop doing drugs, I also started talking to people about like health. And I had this roommate, and I remember he would like put dates in his smoothies. Like he showed me what a goji berry was. He showed me what chia seeds were and like nutritional yeast. Like I was raised on McDonald's, dude. Like I didn't know any of that. And it was like so incredible to me. I remember he made this sauce out of figs for these like lettuce wraps. And I was like, this is amazing. And I kind of started to like, like I started to cook more because I've always been into cooking since I was like little. But I would like zhuzh up top ramen, but like he showed me this other way to like cook with plants and like put in herbs and all of these things. And I was like so inspired by it. And it took me a while to embrace it because I spent a lot of time in relationships in the cannabis industry. And I was always like interested in these kinds of things, but it took me until honestly a giant heartbreak to catapult me into like coming into my own, because I was very like codependent in this really heart-wrenching relationship. And I felt really, really stuck. And I remember being there and some stuff had gone down. We were in like this huge argument. He had left, and I was like, I have to do something. I got to get out of here. And I signed up for a yoga retreat in Guatemala by myself. Also very like out of character for me in a way. I'd never been out of the country, let alone like Guatemala. And I was also really like scared and had lost a lot of myself. And so I was like surprised that I even had like the freaking gusto to like go and do that. But I think I was so mad that I was just like, I'll show you, you know, and I did. And I got on a plane and I went and I spent about a month in Guatemala doing this yoga retreat.
How old were you?
It was 25, maybe 24. Yeah, 24 or 25. Mm-hmm. And that it was like, there was bases in herbalism. There was also like, I had an Ayurvedic teacher there and I was like so enamored, and I was like Ayurveda especially called to me like crazy. I remember reading this book. I can't remember what it's called. It's a red book. It's like the Simple Guide to Ayurveda or something like that. And I read it in 2 days on the beach and I was like, this is it. Like, so I found an herb school right after that in Williams in Oregon, where I'm from. And it also had bases in Ayurveda. And that's what got me to sign up for that herb school. And basically, like, since then, I've just been stacking school after school after school after school, like anything I can do to learn and to grow. And school became like this huge solace for me, a distraction hugely from my emotions, but like it also saved me. Like I went through that gnarly breakup while I was going through herb school. And I just remember like I was in this bus. I moved out of his house. I was living in this bus in the middle of the winter, freezing, by the way. This tiny little wood stove that went out like 3 times a night. And I used to call it the tunnel of sadness. I was so sad, so broken. I know, it's horrible. But like, I mean, in a joking way, you know, like, but in a very real way at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
But like, I mean, as like hard as that was, I remember feeling like so proud of myself. And I remember sitting in the bathtub one time eating pancakes in the bath. And I just remember like being like, I just remember being like, I bought these pancakes. I bought this maple syrup. Yes. I paid for this bus. Like I'm going to herb school. And I was just like so proud. I'm like, this is it. You know, this is what it's about. Like I'm an independent woman. Yes. But yeah, I mean, so I think like heartbreak can be one of the most magical things. Like it's really about perspective, and it has been such a big catalyst for me. I'm a relationship ass bitch. I be getting in those relationships, long ones too. But and every time I've learned so much and I've grown so much, and like as heartbreaking as it can be and as hard as it can be, it's like can turn into this like beautiful alchemical process. And I've taken a lot of solace in that, you know? So that's what got me into that. And I've just continued to follow the path. Like I love learning now, especially for somebody who dropped out of high school, who hated school. Like I started failing school in like 7th grade. I was starting to get Fs. Like I hated it and I would skip all the time. And now I'm like, I can't, now that it's stuff that I am like super in love with and really attracted to and really interested in. Yeah. Like, I'm like, I can't get enough of it. I'm like, bring on the biochemistry. Like, I don't fully get it, but like, I'm trying to learn more about it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love your story. It's so important. And I feel like so many people can relate to that on every single level. Even I just wrote down while you're talking, I'm like, I feel like I'm listening almost to my own story back to myself, like every part of it.
Yeah, it's very inspiring and very relatable. And like as you're talking, I think of like a friend breakup and a relationship breakup and how impactful those both were in my life and how I needed those things to happen because I wouldn't be who I am today and I wouldn't have done the things I needed to do to align myself with my soul's purpose, my soul's path, if I didn't go through those heartaches. And I love how you just embraced it and you worked through it and you used it as this fuel, as this fire to literally help you do the thing that your soul was craving.
And be a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Adrienne, you don't know her, but she's a bad bitch. She is, yes, she gets in relationships, but she is independent and will get and go after whatever the fuck she wants whenever. And that means working 10 jobs just to pay rent or doing whatever while in school. Like, she's going to get it done.
What's your, you said you were Pisces?
Yeah.
And do you know your moon and rising also?
Yeah. I'm a Pisces sun, Taurus moon, Aries rising. And then I also have a lot of Capricorn in my chart also.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel pretty balanced.
Happen.
I know. God, that also is something that took me a long time to embrace though. Like, I remember when I got like my dojas read too, they were like, "Oh, you're so pitta." And I'm like, "What? Like, what fire? What do you mean?" And then like some people like, "Are you kidding me? Like, are you serious?" And I just like, I don't know. It's weird how we don't see those aspects of ourselves sometimes. So thank you, Taylor, for reminding me that I'm a bad bitch.
You're welcome.
I know this, but like,
you.
it's fucking hard out here, dude. It's a challenge. So I was gonna say something about that too, of just like kind of that like everyday magic, that like super common like witchery of just like seeing something that you've gone through and then like turning that into something else. And I think that's like a lot of people get stuck and they don't like notice the magic of every single day, where it's like, yeah, something shitty happens, but it's like, thank God that it did, because it pushed you into this like other path, and like things move out of their way that are not meant for you. And I think people get stuck on like mourning lost lovers, like mourning these like everyday situations, when it's like in reality, like it is all unfolding in the way that it's supposed to. And the more that you believe that, like, I think the happier you are. And that's also something.
Yeah.
No, you guys. But like, I mean, that's something that also takes practice, right? Like, I think, it's taken a lot of things for me to like,
trust.
What I guess trust. Yeah, trust is huge. I've literally been like, do I need to tattoo trust on the inside of my eyelids? Like, what? Yeah. Seriously, right? And like, and those are the words and those are the actions. And yeah, I think it's really important.
Hard as fuck to do.
It is hard to do for sure. But then when you do it, it's this big like release, right? Takes off some of the weight.
Yeah. You just laid down some like bad bitch goddess energy here for us and the listeners, the collective. That was like channeled from your inside. I could feel all of that magic just flowing out of you. You're just like, wait, what did I just say? Did I just say
No,
that?
seriously, I actually have no idea.
We call that channeling here.
Yeah.
Okay, go first.
So you've talked a lot about Ayurveda and the Pitta and the Kapha, and I know like the most minimalist, like could barely say the words, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably have no idea what you're talking about. Is there like a bite-size version for people to kind of understand what Ayurveda is?
Totally. Yeah. I'll try and wrap it up in a little burrito for you. But
yum.
So
Adrienne, please
I mean,
a
nori. Yeah. Maybe a dolma or something. I don't know. Okay. So
there we go.
Basically, that's still the wrong culture. That's okay. But so, Chinese medicine and Ayurveda are similar in the way that they like use the elements to describe, different things that are happening in the body, different things that are happening in the outside. So when you look at things through an elemental lens, I feel like they make so much sense. When I started to like relate Ayurveda to my own body and to different actions of people, different things that are happening in the outside world, I started to really see like the connection and like the magic of balance. So basically, one thing remedies another. So like Hot is going to remedy cold. Cold remedies hot. Wet remedies dry. So you look at these different aspects of things that are going on, let's say in your physical body, right? Pitta is fire, and everybody is made up of every single element, right? We all have water, fire, earth, wind, and these manifest and show themselves in different ways. So like physically, somebody who's super fiery, somebody who's super pitta, they will tend to they have more like skin things sometimes, right? They'll be like more prone to rashes or like acne because it's fire rising. It's the way that they're processing toxins. Toxins are a fiery element. So those things come out. And also people that are pitta tend to be more of like medium build. They're like naturally more muscular. They're super like driven and energetic. And then kind of the like opposite, more harsh side of that is that they can be like quick to anger or, right? Like those, like the rashes and things like that. Like they have a harder time processing stuff like that. Pittas, they say, can also tend to be more stinky. They tend to have more body odor because of the way that they're processing that fire.
Are you Pitta?
Everything.
Naturally. Yeah. Right. Okay. And so the same thing, like Avata, right? They're like, they're wind. And so they tend to be, more airy or flighty, like that circulation thing. They tend to be more dry or maybe tend towards constipation or, like aspects like that. And then on like the positive side of that, right, they're super in touch. They're like super dreamy, really intuitive. So Kapha, right, the third doja, is earth. So they're super like naturally grounded, really like motherly type energy, really like stable. And so like, the opposite side of that would potentially be like more like sluggish, like slower moving, like tend towards, like more like weight gain and stagnation, but are also like the juiciest, most beautiful, comforting, like big lips, soft, full skin. They're full, right? So everything has, I don't want to say like positive and negative, but they have like things that uplift them and things that bring them down just naturally. And
the
so,
light and the shadow.
Right. So like you're constantly trying to balance like everything, right? So you're cold, put on some warm socks, or drink some ginger tea. Like you have heat showing up in your liver, like you're having a hard time processing toxins, you're like angry, then you put like a little bit of lavender oil directly onto your liver and do like big like breaths and like cooling, hydrating practices. It's windy outside, like you wrap yourself up and you put chapstick on, like you're like constantly in this like balancing act. And it makes so much sense. So yeah, let's just say you also like tend towards, you're very vata and you like tends towards dehydration. The biggest thing that is going to remedy you is like soft cooked foods, soups, stews, teas. And like what's going to aggravate you is like the things that you are most called to. They call it a perverted craving. And that would be like salty, crunchy snacks, dehydrated everything. Like I'm so vata and I'm like, give me salads in the winter and trail mix. Like my lips are dry. I would like some chips, and like, that's like naturally what like our bodies want to do. And so you have to like almost be more intuitive than your cravings. And let's just say you can have those crackers, but like put some olive oil on them or dip them in hummus, You can have that smoothie, but put some cardamom or cinnamon or ginger in it, something that's going to heat it up and warm it up. Put like fuzzy socks on while you're drinking it. One of my favorite things to do is drink a smoothie in the bath. I'm like, yes, it is so good for my vata cold, my pitta hot.
I've never done that. I totally want to do that.
Yeah. So like, I mean, once you understand it, like, I just think it's so amazing. It's literally so incredible to me. And it just makes so much sense.
Is there an easy way for people to find out what they are so that they can like on their own start to get balance in their life?
Totally. There's like so many tests online.
Is there a water one, or is it just fire, air, and earth?
I think Pitta is actually technically fire and water. And then Kapha is earth and water. So like Kapha is the same thing where there's like stagnation. So like Kaphas also tend to be like more like mucusy and have it show up like that. Where like Pittas with the water too, there's like one of the qualities is Pitta liquid, and it's like they're like, you know, they're like sweatier and like more cystic acne-y type vibes. And so yeah, the water shows up in both of those ways and in different ways. It's interesting too. I was going to say too, with Pittas, you'll find a lot that they're so fiery, and one of their like perverted things is alcohol and spicy foods.
Damn it.
Pittas love hot sauce, and a lot of them can tend to drink.
Hot sauce drawer.
Yeah, it's like fire on fire on fire, which is like such a beautiful, amazing thing. But like it has to be balanced, you know. And so like yeah, if you do tend to be super Pitta, yeah, sure. And it's like, and then you need to drink aloe water with cucumber in it after that to like balance, because that's the thing is like we just stack, and then we become super unbalanced. And like the thing about those qualities that I was telling you too, like we're like innately born as something, which is like, you know, genetic. It has to do with our birth story, whatever. And then like through our lives, we become our own like person. And then you like develop different qualities of your doshas from that. And then when things get super out of balance, you kind of like fall down the line. Like most people are not born Pitta penetrating, which is like kind of one of the most aggravated states of Pitta. People like become Pitta penetrating. Nobody like comes out the womb a murderer or like a rapist or something, you know? It just like, it happens. And there's all these like ways that you can see it too. And like the way that people look, they say like people that are Pitta penetrating are usually those people that like tend to have those scary tendencies, like I said, or have. And you'll like see them, they like look right through you, you know? You like see somebody and you're like, ooh, like that shit's scary. They're something in them is like so out of balance. And those things could, you know, potentially be remedied if they were like given the proper tools. But yeah. Okay, so let's see. The book that I read that initially inspired me was, it's called Ayurveda, The Science of Self-Healing by Dr. Vasant Lad. And he is like a really well-known Ayurvedic doctor. He's written so many things that are like so incredible. But this book specifically, it breaks the doshas down. And I don't know if there's a test in that book necessarily, but it's pretty easy to kind of see the qualities. And then, yeah, there's like all sorts of tests online that'll give you like, you know, pretty close understanding.
Just Google it or
of
something.
Your main qualities. Yeah.
That's amazing. There's just every person we talk to, and you learn more like about your sign or your dosha or whatever. It's like it gives me so much more space to give myself grace with things. Where it's like just to be kinder, I think, and like and that comes with having more understanding of just like who you are as a person. And I don't know. I really love the way you broke that down. For me, I'm like, okay, I'm hella Pitta. Like, I have skin stuff. I'm smelly. I like booze. Like, I have all of these things. And it's like, I'm like more muscular and like bigger framed person. And it's, I don't know, validating, I guess, to know, like, all those little things go in this little box, and it's like, that's okay, and there you can find your balance.
Yeah, right? Well, and like, because of that, also, you are just, like, an incredibly driven person, you know? Like, your Pitta qualities come out in, like, so many other ways, yeah. Yeah, mine are, I'm a Vata cold, Pitta hot. And so I don't really know how to figure out those specific qualities unless you were like with somebody that read your pulse or like knew about those. But Taylor, I can show you in my notebook from school. It breaks down all the qualities. So I can help you figure that out for sure.
Love it.
But yeah, so like mine manifests, it's interesting, right? Because like I'm those two main things and I totally see it show up in my body in different ways. Deanna told me that it's my liver that's hot because I'm cold. Like right now, my fingers are freezing. My circulation is slow. And, so like circulation wise, I'm super cold. They also say that Vata colds are the most like intuitive, kind of clairvoyant. I'm like, of course, I'm freezing, ghosts, they're freezing. They're all up in my vibe. It's cold, all right? Like it's freaking
She's like,
cold.
actually, the ghosts live inside my body.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Like who knows how many damn lifetimes I've been here. I don't really know. But yeah, and then the liver, I have a hot liver. Like I've battled acne for like so much of my life. Like I like dealt with so much anger when I was like a kid before I knew how to process what was happening. And they say that too, that like anger is also stored in the liver. Your liver is of fire. I used to just joke and be like, I'm going to just push it all down in my liver. Yeah. Like, this is a really great, real joke. Like, not a good idea. Don't do that. Process your emotions or they'll come out as cystic acne. Yeah. So I am kind of always in this like hot and cold energetic balance where my energy feels hot, my physical body feels cold. Yeah.
Love that.
Balance. Baby.
What is... Okay, I think that you explained all of that so lovely. Yes. I loved all of it. I just like listening to you talk.
I know.
Can you walk us through what herbalism is and what kind of attracted you to that?
Totally. Yeah. So I mean, I think being a chef too, like I love being a kitchen witch and working with herbalism and cooking. It's one of like my favorite things to fuse. But I mean, herbalism is the study of plant medicine. It's been around for so freaking long. There was even like a time where they call it like the herbal dark ages, where they buried all the texts and they burned all sorts of stuff and they tried to kill it. I think that was like with the rise of pharmaceuticals. It was even like in the 70s, I'm pretty sure. It really wasn't that long ago. So this whole herbalism revival is like honestly somewhat new. And I'm so grateful for the plants and to understand plant medicine and to be able to incorporate it into my life. It's been such a like savior to me in so many ways. And I think herbalism is so important. Like whether you're going to be like a practicing herbalist or not, I think going to herb school is like one of the best things that you could literally do for yourself, because knowing how to like, number one, learn like the native plants that are around you that are medicinal, that literally grow in your yard and like that people weed whack all day long, that people have no idea that they're just stomping on like pure medicine. Like I think that is so important and so empowering.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure I had these like huge milk thistle like plants in my backyard because do they grow to be like 3 or 4 feet tall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was Googling it and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have so much milk thistle in my backyard.
My first rental here in Medford, we had a shit ton of mallow that just took over the whole yard. And I was like, ooh, I gotta figure out how to use that. This is amazing.
Yeah. And like, aren't those things like such a gift? I also think too, when things like that show up in your life, like, oh, you had milk thistle in your yard, Taylor, and like you're talking about your liver, like those plants show up for you. Milk thistle is one of the best liver supporters in like the world. And marshmallow too is like super good. Collagenous and juicy and like so good for digestion. Marshmallow root is one of my favorite plants. Obsessed with it. Like such a savior for me. So things like that show up for people. You'll see people. I see like yards. Yeah, I mean, they choose you. Like, they really do. They show up if you know how to pay attention. And I think that's also one of the most magical things is like learning how to pay attention. But yeah, like I'll see people's yards that are just like full of cow poppy, and I'm like they need protection and they need like calming. I'm sure those people like are potentially super anxious and like feel unsafe, you know? So
I have all the chills. Wow. I love that.
Yeah. So like, again, like imagine that person who like sees all that cow poppy, like if they knew what it was like trying to tell them, if they knew like what that plant did. And I think that's like, it's such a huge like bridge between human and plant world to like understand. And I think a lot of people are missing that like key component. And that's why I think it's like, I'm just like, I encourage everybody, like, again, like whether you're going to be an herbalist or not, most people don't really pay herbalists also. Like, herbalism is just like another stack of my certificates. Like hence why I went to school for nutrition is because I was like, people are so much more apt to find a nutritionist. And then I weave in Ayurveda and then I weave in plants and then I like get them in that way, you know? But yeah, most people
tricking
don't
people
necessarily
into self-care.
I'm like, oh yeah, yes, I'll do a meal plan for you. Surprise, it's ashwagandha.
She was meal prepping for me for a while, and she's like, okay, there's like all these adaptogens in your ranch dressing, and there's ashwagandha in your other dressing, and like here's this, and I am obsessed. I think that is like one of my favorite things about the way that you're able to cook is by like every time I go get a smoothie, I'm like, why don't they have that option? Why don't they have the option to add on like a couple dollars of fucking ashwagandha or whatever else? Like I would pay a $14 for that smoothie.
Okay, I love to hear that. You know, I love to hear that. Yeah, I got dreams, girl. I'm like, how much would you pay for that smoothie?
$100.
Perfect. Yeah. So like herbalism, and knowing, like, I think hugely, right? Like being able to like understand what's going on with you is really important. And then being able to like also understand plants in a way that you can like find something that is going to balance you, that is going to support you in all of these ways. It's been like I said, like such a big part of my life and my healing journey. It's so important to me now, like making a cup of tea and not like a bag of tea, you know, not like there's anything wrong with that, because if that's what you have, like, yes, I'm like, get the plants in any way you can, literally with like kitchen herbs, right? I'm like, put the parsley in it, the rosemary, like all of these culinary herbs and spices are so medicinal, and people don't even like think about it. Like cayenne is one of the biggest like blood movers. Like it's so good for me, Vata specifically. Like it's like cayenne and like, I mean, turmeric, right? Like we put like in curry powder is like so important. It's so anti-inflammatory. It has all of these antioxidants in it. Like it's like this incredible medicinal source that is like highly, highly underrated. And so, yeah, there's the milk thistles and there's the marshmallow root, and that's like a whole nother level. But like, yeah, literally like regular ass kitchen herbs. Rosemary is one of the best things for your memory. It's like so good for you. Also, again, super antimicrobial and like antibacterial. Like you're sick, put some rosemary in your chicken broth and like you've just like boosted your food. And I mean, even like peppermint, right?
So you're saying
peppermint
white people like, season your food.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah. And fresh too. I mean, dried works, right? But like chopping up some fresh herbs and putting it in your spaghetti sauce, like you are like working with plant medicine right there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Hell yeah. Again, I just encourage people to learn and to like look things up, look up plants that you're like curious about. And even like those common kitchen herbs that I'm talking about, like look it up, like look up the health benefits of oregano, look up the health benefits of turmeric. Like or like cardamom or cinnamon, you know, like there's so many like amazing beneficial factors to all of these plants. And I just encourage people to work with it, work with plants, like make yourself a cup of tea, making food and making yourself tea, make it like a ritual, and like understand what these things can do for you, and yeah, incorporate it, I think ritual also is one of like the most important things. Like take a second when you make a cup of tea and like smell it, smell the aromatics, like taste it, and like feel, what it does for you, and allow yourself to like sit and actually feel what something is doing to you too. Because I think people are like so distracted, and we're in like these big hustle and bustles, and we're slamming tea and we're slamming coffee, and like, we're like so disconnected, and like really like the reconnection is where I find like the most magic and all of those things.
Lastly, I kind of just wanted to touch on nutrition, because I know that's something you just graduated doing, and something that obviously is super important to you that you're integrating everything else into. I don't necessarily know what questions I have, but maybe like your key takeaways from it, and like what you think are some really important things that everybody needs to know.
Okay.
And if we could break down some like bullshit diet fad stuff that is dumb and sucks.
Right. Yes. Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, my journey with food is long. It's been quite like tumultuous in its own ways. Like I had said earlier, like I struggled with disordered eating for a long time. And it's something too that I feel like unless, you've really like struggled with it, it's kind of can be hard to understand. But it is like kind of like a constant, it's like something that like consistently comes up with people, I feel like, who have struggled. And this goes on like all ends of the spectrum, right? Like I'm talking about, like binging or restricting. There's it's a spectrum, right? And it can be so challenging, and it's such a personal thing too. Food is so dang sensitive. People are really protective of their own perspectives on food. There's a lot of shame around food for a lot of people. It's touchy. And I have, I've wanted to be a chef since I was so young. Like I used to skip school to literally stay home and watch the Food Network. Like I've been obsessed for so long. I would literally sit my brother down at the kitchen counter, and I would make him like a grilled cheese sandwich, and I would make him listen to me while I did a Food Network show. And I would so it's interesting for me too, like from such a young age, I was like so into it. But I was raised on very like unhealthy food. And I also wasn't raised around, like good morals or perspective, or boundaries, I guess, around food also. I was kind of shown unhealthy patterning. And like, bless my parents' heart, doing the best that they possibly could with what they had. And I understand that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that was still a big challenge for me. I mean, to the point that like, I restricted for a really long time. And coming into like food and wanting to be a chef and wanting to like heal those parts of myself, because I knew it was something that I was into. But it's interesting, like I was so in love with it and so afraid of it at the same time. And so it's been this like big learning for me. And I've always been really inspired to work with people that have struggled in the same way that I have. Disordered eating was a huge focus for me during nutrition school, and the digestive system is also really huge. And I've like felt really inspired to work with youth, specifically like high school students with addiction recovery and eating disorder recovery. That is like such a big dream of mine, is to work with troubled youth, really. And if I was like fully living as a nutritionist right now, like I'm working at the restaurant and I'm learning other things right now. But if I was working as a nutritionist, that is like something that I'm super inspired to do. And so, yeah, I think just like wanting to bridge that gap for myself, you know, and like I'm very I'm very growth minded. I've learned and I've known from like a young age, you know, that like I don't want to like live like this. I don't want to like trash my body. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel vibrant. And you know, it's not like that hasn't been a challenge for me. But I feel really good right now. I feel really balanced in my life, and I feel like I've incorporated so much of that. And I like thank school for that so much, for keeping me on track, and yeah, like debunking so many things for me too. Cause I also spent so many years as a vegan. And for me, my veganism was hugely correlated with my eating disorder. And I don't think that's the same for everybody. But for me, when I started eating meat again, I was just like, I can't with the restriction anymore. Like it was driving me crazy because I wanted to be healthy, but I was so scared of like so many foods. And so I really like challenged myself a couple years ago, and I was like, I just want to eat whatever I want to eat. Like, give me the gluten, give me the butter. Like, cause I also realized too that so much of my like worry about food was actually what was shutting down my digestion, my assimilation. Because if you eat something and you tell your body, you're like, why did you do that? What did you just do? Oh my gosh, it's going to make you sick. It's going to da, 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 da. Like your body is intelligent. It hears what you're saying to it. You like energetically are telling your body to be afraid of something that you just did. And it is not doing you any good. It's definitely like, it's detrimental. And I think for me too, I had such a hard time, actually digesting and actually assimilating these nutrients that I was taking in. So I was trying so hard to be like so healthy. You know, I only eat vegetables. I only eat this. This is not good for you. And I was actually like doing myself more harm. And so I think that is like one of the main things that I pulled from school. Like, not that you can't be vegan, like you can definitely be vegan. Is it like harder to get everything that you need? Definitely. Like it takes intelligence and it takes like a lot of work, and it takes you paying a lot of attention to the vitamins and the minerals that you're taking in to make sure that you actually are getting everything that your body needs. So I think that was something that was huge, is people they weren't turning you away from being vegan, but they were like encouraging you to really pay attention to the amount of minerals and the amount of vitamins that you are actually taking in, the amount of protein, and like what sources they are from. And I think the best way to approach nutrition, in my opinion, is from a whole food perspective, like as little processed, as organic, as local, as like whole food, nutritionally sound as possible. Because the more that you're fucking with something, the more that you are even flours, right? Like even like almond flour. It's like, it has its molecular, like solid form in and of itself. And then you take that and then you grind it up and you mess with it, and you like mess with the molecules of what is like already contained within this almond, and then it changes it. So like people that are like, you know, you're surviving so much on like crackers or, you know, like gluten-free flour blends, or like all of these things that are like, that have been changed and therefore are like harder for your body to process. I think I think there's also so much like hang up on and like focus on taking supplements too. And like all of these supplements are also the same thing, where you've taken a whole food and you've ground it up and like squished it into this little thing. And so many of those vitamins are actually so hard for your body to process and to digest and to assimilate, where it's like, if you actually just ate like a cup of blueberries and like a half a sweet potato or something, you're getting like so many like natural minerals and natural minerals and vitamins and all of these things that are completely bioavailable and ready for your body to absorb. And I think that, again, there's just like a huge disconnection from those kinds of things.
I think I'm kind of obviously just like terrified of meat. I haven't eaten meat most of my life. So like where do you get your meat locally? Like, how do you know that it's going to be good quality and something that you don't even have the guilt about? Just all of it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that has also been like quite the process where like I pulled it back, right? I've gone deep and then I pulled it back. And a lot of that was like playing with like the emotions around it. Where like, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to eat meat. And I like was very specific on like, you know, organic and grass fed and finished and all of these things. Also, it took me a while to eat red meat. Like this has been like quite the process for me. But then I also messed with like, what if I just eat something from a restaurant? Like, it's not organic chicken, let's just say. And like, it's not necessarily like the most high quality, best thing for you. Like I'm sure it ate grains that are sprayed with glyphosate, but there was this like magic for me. And just like, I'm like, I'm going to eat the chicken. And I'm like, I'm not going to feel bad about it. And like, for me, that was such a big process in my growth. And then I would like see myself kind of going farther off the deep end. I'd be like, okay, that's a little too much restaurant meat, you know? And then I'd like pull it back in. And I do think it's really important to be like proactive about the kinds of meat that you are supporting and like the kinds of farms that you are supporting. And I think there's some wiggle room and forgiveness because nobody is perfect. And anything that is like going to sustain you is also important and has its place. So I think it's important not to beat yourself up too much. And also when you are buying meat like from a store, this is also something that comes with like privilege, right? So it's like not everybody can afford that. Not everybody can afford grass-fed, grass-finished organic beef all the time. Some of them have 6 kids to feed. And like, who am I to say, right, that is like, that is not right, or like you're doing this, like it, because we all do the best that we possibly can. And like, there are a lot of places, farms, companies that we are able to support now. And it's becoming like even more popular to have farms that are like pasture raised, you know, like it's talked about a lot more. And I think that that is like such a cool opportunity. And it is important, if you can, to afford that kind of stuff, to support that kind of stuff, because then it shows, right, that we support that kind of stuff. We want it. Those farms then are like able to make the money to continue to like provide these quality meats or, you know, vegetables or whatever it is. So voting with your dollar is definitely really important. And again, like you do the best that you possibly can and you forgive yourself. I think the energetics around it, like I said, are super, super important.
Something that I've been practicing. I also have had like an eating disorder probably since I was 10 years old. And it's something that I struggle with. And then people think probably because I am a thick girl that like, oh, I just eat whatever I want. But I don't. I think that I think restricting for so long took like a really hard toll on my body because I didn't eat for like 10 to 15 years of my life. Like I just wouldn't eat. Yeah. And I was like, if I went to bed hungry, I was like really proud of myself. And so, in the last maybe 3 to 6 months, I've been like, okay, look at the bowl of food you're eating. And you're like, okay, I got my protein, I got my fiber, and I got my like your vegetables or whatever. And then I'm like, thank you so much for this nourishment. Instead of being like, I'm going to eat this fucking sourdough bread that I got from the farmer's market. Like, who fucking cares? Just have a piece of toast. You're not going to die and your pants will still fit. Like, and you don't have to kill yourself at the gym either. Like, and so I think just being kind to yourself and like, yes, taking care of yourself and eating those good foods. But also, just being kind and not like the shame. There's so much shame around it. It's just like, I don't have the fucking energy for it anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the vagus nerve is your gut-brain connection, right? It is so freaking real. They literally are one and the same. And I mean, it's interesting, right? Like you like think of something that's like horrible and like you feel nauseous, you know? or there's like such a strong connection in our bodies. And again, right, this reconnection, this disconnection that so many people are living in is like really what is like plaguing so much of our society, is that we're just so damn disconnected to so many aspects.
Yeah.
So yeah, gratitude practices.
I love that it really
like deep breathing.
Comes back to having those rituals, the gratitude and being present and having a healthier thought process in how you move through life, and especially around food, how you eat your food.
Right. And that's that everyday magic, you know, that's that like super common witchery. Like that's just like this transmutation that we are like constantly living in. And like what a fucking way to live your life, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Such a beautiful conversation. I'm so happy.
Do you have any offerings that people could work with you either locally or online? Any magic that you're creating for people?
Totally. So currently right now, I'm in a transitional position with my business where I don't have like a website or anything right now, but I do have an Instagram that if anybody wanted to work with me, as far as like locally, I do food prep for people. I do private chef stuff. I do custom desserts and cakes for like weddings or events. I love to make like super medicinal, medicinally infused cakes and treats and things like that. And then I also am open to seeing herbal and nutrition clients as well. But currently right now, the only way to reach me is through my Instagram, which will probably be tagged somewhere.
Yep.
Right?
Oh yeah, we'll for sure tag it in our the show notes as well as on our Instagram too.
Yeah, and after we do the card pull, we'll ask you to plug your stuff. So there's 2 questions that we like to ask every guest before we do the card pull. And the first question is, what is your self-care ritual that you can't live without? Something that you make sure to do daily or weekly?
The self-care ritual that I cannot live without is definitely hot baths. So important to me. And also I am obsessed and in love with my gua sha, which is a tool that I use for moving lymphatic juices. It's become really popularized to do it on your face, which is incredible for collagen and hydration and all sorts of things. But I love to do that thing all over my body. Another awesome thing that I learned from the Dhyana Center is gua sha your literal entire body, especially places that your lymph doesn't move yourself. On the neck, in the armpits, around the breast. Breast health is something that is like super important to me too. That is a really strong ritual in my life.
Do you use like a bigger gua sha or the same one?
I have like a wood one that is probably about 5 or 6 inches across. Kind of looks like a boomerang.
Okay.
Cool. But yeah, I use that baby all over the place. Yeah.
What's the trick?
We can get into breast massage stuff.
Like, should you be moving it like towards your heart, or I've seen a couple different things about it. Like, how are you doing it?
Right. Yeah. Well, you do want to like move things towards your heart, but also like using the gua sha just to like break something up. Like you like kind of rigidly go up and down to break something up, and then you like smooth and move towards the heart. Same, like I just kind of like almost like agitate, I guess, like in an area, rough it up, move it, get it all broken up, and then kind of like pull and push.
And do you do that daily?
If I was a superhero, yes, I would, but I'm very much human and I fall off always, you know, like I have a lot going on in my life and sometimes I forget, but but I do leave it on my bathroom counter, like usually, or next to my bed. And I find when I see it more, then I'll use it more.
That's so awesome. And then our other question is, What would you love to tell your younger self today?
Mm-hmm. I didn't prepare myself for this question. I think I would tell my younger self a couple things. The first thing is probably that, like, it'll get better. I think that there was so much stuff in my life that felt so intense and, like, I don't know, world shaking in so many ways. And I think I felt stuck for so many times in my life, especially when I was younger. Like, it was hard for me to see a way out of a lot of it. And then also, I think that I would tell myself that I am wildly capable. And I think it's hard. I think we can be so hard on ourselves. And so, like, doubtful. And that's something that I always tell myself even today, like my younger self as in yesterday, is that, like, you are wildly capable of absolutely anything and everything that you want to put your mind to. And that's important to remember.
I love that.
Yes,
so
bitch.
Important.
You're amazing. This has been amazing. We're going to use the Pure Magic Oracle deck today by Andres Ingracias. Oh, I like this deck a lot.
Me too.
I've never heard of this one.
I'll shuffle first. You want to see it? I got it in St. Louis. I really like it. We're kind of on a delay. I don't know if you noticed.
It's not happening on my end. Oh, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm like, I feel like I cut you off and then, like, you didn't hear it for a minute multiple times. But people will know that and that'll be fine. Okay. So I'm just going to fan these out across my heart and we'll take a deep breath. And out. I'll do boom. It's weird because this was the only one I saw a minute ago, too. It says ancestors, family, survival, death, and worship. And it's the first card of the whole deck.
Oh, interesting. Number one.
Family and survival.
Yeah, I'll find it. Ancestors. How far down the line do you know about your ancestors and the lives they led? What pieces of the puzzle are in store for you to discover when you reclaim the history of your surviving line? We sit in classrooms as children and learn about the history of the world and its discoverers, explorers, scientists, and leaders who changed the paths of the human collective, but we also hold those very types of beings in the thick of our bodies. We carry the magic of the leaders from our own families waiting to be unlocked. Of all spirits throughout the world, the most accessible, responsive spirits of all may be your personal ancestral spirits. It is assumed in many cultures that following death, some part of the individual stays behind to provide protection to descendants. Aww. The remaining family, in return, is expected to remember them, honor their memory, and be a source of pride and perhaps offer gestures of respect on occasion. Your genetic code, your DNA, goes back to the drawing of human time. If you're not comfortable with your immediate ancestors, go back further. Visualize them hovering over you and wait to be honored and put to work. That was so nice, especially after you talked about your grandpa.
Right? No.
There's a spell that goes with it, and it says to communicate, pay homage, or ask for direction, erect a family altar. This is crazy because I asked my mom for pictures of my grandma and, like, some of my ancestors, and she just sent them to me today.
Yes.
So that is so interesting.
I love, like, the tradition of Dia de los Muertos like that.
Yes, absolutely.
All that is required is a glass of pure spring water and a white candle. Burn the candle for 7 days, extinguishing the flame when it's not supervised. The spirits care about your safety. It's not necessary to change the water or add to it if it evaporates. If it pleases you, make a more elaborate altar, set out photographs of relatives if you have them, or display something that symbolizes those relationships to you. If you think they'd prefer a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or something stronger, place that out as well. Serve the ancestors food they would like, food representative of your ancestry and their time. If it isn't possible, then offer them something special to you. What would you give them if they could visit you and tell you their or your history, offering you advice born of observation and wisdom?
I love that.
I love that too.
I have pictures of my grandpa who passed a couple years ago, and then his parents. I also have pictures of them on my altar at home. But I always want to put out food for them, but we have lots of animals, and I'm always afraid they're gonna eat it. But I do make my favorite recipes that my grandpa taught me how to make, and I'll just eat and enjoy and think about him while I eat it. So beautiful.
That's so sweet. I've also been gathering more photos myself, and I'm trying to do more of that also. I also have a couple pictures of my mom when she was younger and things like that, and trying to put more energy into the younger selves of some of my relatives.
I love that.
Yeah, the picture my mom sent me of my grandma, I'm like, holy shit, she's stunning.
Aww.
I had no idea she was such a babe.
Wow, Betty.
Oh, you can't see it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well.
Text her.
So.
Yeah, text it to me.
I don't know. I'm really happy with today. I will. Where can we find you? What you said people could get your services through social media. How can they find you?
On Instagram, I am at Adrienne_.Marie. That's my business page, and there's some of my recent works on there. And yeah, my DMs are always open. I love to chat, even if it's somebody's that's not even trying to directly work with me. I like to answer questions. And yeah, I like to make new connections. So I'm always open to that.
And if you're local, you're at Hither in Ashland.
Yeah, yep. Come try the little bun boys. I've resurrected the cinnamon roll out there, and people are really stoked on them.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to go there. I'm very excited for that. We should have a little
we'll come to brunch.
Witchy brunch date.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This was so special. I love you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're amazing.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow us at Waking Up the Witch on all the socials.
Don't forget to email us all your questions, concerns, stories, ghost stories, advice. We don't want advice. We're going to give you advice at wakingupthewitch@gmail.com.
Go outside.
Drink some water.
Try to meditate.
Move your body.
Celebrate yourself.
Be kind.
Pay it forward.
Hug somebody.
Love yourself.
Hug a tree. Bye. Love you.
Love you.